According to Mark. As he taught, he said, "Beware of the scribes who like to walk around in long robes and to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and to have the best seats in the synagogues and places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for the sake of appearances say long prayers. They will receive the greater condemnation." He sat down opposite the treasury and watched the crowd putting money into the treasury. Many rich people put in large sums. A poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins, which are worth a penny. Then he called the disciples and said to them, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all of those who are contributing to the treasury. For all of them have contributed out of their abundance, but she out of her poverty had put in everything she had, all she had to live on." This is the word of God to the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Jesus, in this lesson, you have to wonder what he was thinking. Why that particular day did he choose to go to the temple? Now, we know from reading the gospel accounts that this was not the first time he had gone. We know that he was there when he was 12, conversing with the teachers, and they marveled at his insights. We know that several occasions he went with his disciples because he was an observant Jew. And if you're going to worship, you go to the center of your faith and there participate through offerings, through prayers, through songs, through simply being present. We know that one of the last things he did was to go to the temple in that week known as Holy Week, and there had his final confrontation with those who thought they knew the mind of God better than God did. So what was it about this particular event that Mark thought it important enough to write down? What was it about this that the early church said, of all the stories that are known about Jesus, we need to include this one? It's an unnamed woman on an ordinary day. People were coming into the temple. What was it about it that stuck out in Mark's mind? Unnamed woman, held up by our Lord as an example for all of us. 1900 plus years later, we're talking about her this morning. Jesus went to a building that was, by all historical accounts, magnificent. It was a thing of beauty, a thing that had taken centuries to complete. Finished during the reign of the one called Herod the Great. Not great because he was great. Great because he said he was great. The Romans, they were fine with him building this temple. After all, if people are putting their treasury to work in building buildings, They're not putting their treasury into armies. If they're building we remember that 100 years ago today, the guns of the Western Front fell silent. A 100 years later, we are still at war. So I wonder, would Jesus be happy with us? In the temple precinct, in that massive building, was this courtyard, for lack of a better word. And surrounding it was this huge portico. And at various stations were 13 massive chests that people coming into the temple, after they had made their sacrifice or paid for the doves or sheep or whatever else they were sacrificing, would go through the area, portico, and find the chest that they wanted to put their coins into. Each of the chests was designated for particular things that the temple needed to function. Candles, oil, brooms, so on. And so people, after having done their religious duty, if they had any change left over, they put it in the box. On this day, our Lord, having done his religious duty, having made his offering, said his prayers, engaged in the rituals of his faith, was watching people come through this area. Of all the people there that day, he spies a widow and watches her put some pennies in the plate. And he also watched people put a lot of money in the plate. Now, I want you to tell me, what is the difference? Size? Value? Are you sure? I mean, this says, "In God we trust," Liberty, 1972. I think it's, I don't know, B. United States of America, e pluribus unum, 1 cent. It says it's a penny. Honest and true. Pass it around, you see it. Says, in fact, it says the exact same thing as this one. Same inscription, same value. I almost said if you go to the store, maybe not. I want you to think for a second what it is that that woman was thinking that day. This was probably not the first time she had been to the temple. We don't know. Mark doesn't record it. We know that she was there, doing the same thing that everybody else was doing. Praying, hearing, watching, taking in the religious customs of her people. Before she went home, she took 2 coins, 2 small coins, the smallest in the Roman Empire, and put them in the bucket. Now, what she did on the surface makes no sense. Jesus said she put in everything she had to live on. That is counterintuitive. It was crazy back then, it's crazy now. Next week, you're going to have the opportunity to take part in Celebration Sunday, where we make our pledges for the coming year. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the Stewardship Finance Committee is not anticipating that you will put everything in the plate. No one is going to ask to see your W-2 or your tax return. Now, if you want to, God bless you. But we wouldn't expect it. And so this thought keeps coming back to my mind. What was she thinking? Why risk everything? Survival, food, life itself, on a gesture that was not going to make any difference in the way the temple conducted its life. Why do it then if it has no consequence, if it has no relevance to the community? Jesus, you know, he keeps coming up. That name, he keeps popping up in the gospel. I don't know what it is. Maybe he had a good PR agent. I don't know. But we talk about him a lot, right? So maybe he had something to do with this. Now, she wasn't making an offering to Jesus. She wasn't doing anything for anyone except something about her faith said, everything I am, everything I have, everything I hope to achieve, everything, life, everything is from God. And because everything comes from God, everything must return to God. What was she thinking? What are you thinking when the offering plate passes you by? Are you thinking that, well, if I put too much in, I won't be able to have dessert out at Frontier Cafe this afternoon? Gosh, I hope nobody sees what I put in. I hope nobody knows that I'm going to fly first class instead of coach. Why did I say that? Why? Why go through all this gyration week after week if it has no meaning? If it bears no relevance in how we live our life? If what we put on the plate is just incidental to an organization or an institution, but it has no source my faith or in my God. You see, what we do here, week after week, has as its foundation a ritual that people, religious people of nearly every stripe, have done since the dawn of time. Making an offering is an outward and visible act that others participate in as well. We are not bribing God with our offering. We are not paying for the grace and mercy and love that we receive from God. So why do it? Why go through this ritual? The words of Jesus. Calling his disciples over, he says, look, not at what she put in, but why. This was her way of saying, I'm all in. I hold nothing back. If you think about it, that's all your church asks. Is there something that you're holding back? Not money. We have enough money. Yeah, we do. The bishop thought I was crazy when I said it up to her once. Stevensville United Methodist Church has all the money we need. We do. Where is it? That's the question. Because the things we value, the things that are important to us, the relationships that give our life meaning, the community that we live within. We have money for the things we value. We have time for the people we value. In all of this, the reason this particular lesson comes around every 3 years in our lectionary is because it's in here. It's not in here because it's a good story. It's not in here because it's representative of some heroic act. No miracle. No, nothing, just an unnamed woman out of her poverty put in everything she had. See, when we read stories like this, and we look for the hidden meaning, we try to make it a lot more complicated and a lot more theological. It was a simple woman who had nothing to offer the world, but everything to offer God. That's why the story is in the Bible. Because it reminds us